You can try to run, hide, or escape, but the bond we share is unbreakable. No matter where you go, I will always find a way to bring you back, to show you that we belong together. In the moments when you feel like escaping, remember that no distance is too far, no place too hidden. Our hearts are intertwined, and there's no running from the truth. You may think you can outrun fate, but destiny has a way of pulling us back. No matter how far you go, the universe will lead you back to where you're meant to be. The harder you run, the more I feel the pull. No matter the miles or the time, I know where you truly belong, and one day you'll feel it too. Escape might seem like an option, but your heart knows better. No matter how far you wander, I'll always find a way to bring you back to where you belong. In the stillness of the night, even when you think you're far from me, your soul still whispers my name, guiding you back to where you belong. You might think running will set you free, but all it does is bring you closer to the place where you've always belonged. Eventually, you'll stop running. No matter how hard you try, the truth has a way of finding you. The path you're meant to walk always circles back to the place where your heart feels whole. Distance means nothing when the heart speaks louder than the miles. You'll always be pulled back to where you're meant to be, no matter how much you try to run. You can flee, but the love that binds us will always bring you back. It's not about force, it's about the truth that neither time nor distance can erase. I know the path you're walking seems lonely, but don't be fooled. Where you belong is just around the corner, and I'll be here waiting, always pulling you back. The deeper you run, the stronger the pull becomes. No matter how far you go, the place where your heart is meant to be will never let you go. You can try to hide from this, but there's no escaping where you truly belong. Eventually, your heart will guide you back, no matter how much you resist. Every step you take away from me only brings you closer to the truth. No matter how far you go, I'll always be here, pulling you back where you belong. There is no escaping the pull of what is meant to be. The more you try to run, the more you'll realize that the place you belong has been with you all along. You can outrun the world, but you can't outrun what's inside. No matter how far you go, my presence will always find a way to bring you back. Even in the darkest moments, when you think you're lost, remember that I will always be there to bring you back to where you belong, where you're meant to be. The heart knows where it belongs, even when the mind tries to ignore it. You may wander, but you'll always return to the place where you're meant to be. When you try to run from me, it's not an end. It's just a new beginning, because in the end, we always find our way back to where we truly belong. You can keep running, but the truth will follow. Eventually, you'll find yourself back where you belong, and everything will finally make sense. The harder you try to run, the closer I feel. I'm not chasing you, I'm guiding you back gently to the place where your heart feels at home. The more you resist, the clearer the pull becomes. You're always meant to be here, and no matter how much you run, you'll be back where you belong. You can run in every direction, but there's always a force that brings you back to the truth. It's in the quiet moments when you finally feel where you belong. The more you distance yourself, the more I realize that we're meant to be together. No matter how far you run, I'll always be the one pulling you back. You might think you can outrun me, but what's meant to be can never be outrun. In time, you'll return to where you're supposed to be, where you belong. When you try to run, you're only running from yourself. No matter how fast you go, the place you belong will always pull you back. You can try to outrun your heart, but you'll find that the farther you go, the stronger it pulls you back to where it truly belongs. No matter where you go, my love will always find you. It's an invisible thread that connects us, and it'll pull you back to where you're meant to be. You can hide behind your walls, but the truth will always find a way to break through. The place where you belong is waiting, and it's never far from you. Escape might seem like an answer, but it's only temporary. The love that connects us will never let go, no matter how far you run. You can run as far as you want, but deep down, you'll always know where you belong. One day, you'll stop running and let your heart lead you back. Running from the truth is like trying to outrun the sun. It's always going to catch up. No matter where you go, you'll find yourself back where you belong. No matter how far you wander, the pull of where you belong will always guide you back. Running is just a temporary distraction. The truth never fades. You might think you can escape, but love always finds a way. And one day, when you least expect it, you'll be back where you truly belong. You can keep running from your feelings, but they will always catch up. One day, you'll find yourself back where you belong, with the peace you've been searching for. The more you run, the louder your heart speaks. It's calling you back to the place where you belong, where everything feels right. You may feel like you can outrun me, but the truth will always find its way to you. The place you belong is just waiting for you to come back. Escape might seem like freedom, but in reality, it's just a detour. Where you truly belong is always waiting, ready to welcome you back. You can run from the past, but your soul knows where it belongs. No matter how far you go, it will always bring you back to the truth. Distance doesn't change what's meant to be. No matter where you go, you'll always feel the pull of where you belong, calling you back. You can try to hide, but your heart knows the way. The path will always lead you back to where you belong, to the place where you feel whole. Running won't erase the truth. It only delays the inevitable. One day, you'll stop and realize that you're back where you always belonged. The more you try to escape, the more you'll realize that the place you belong is not far from you. One day, you'll be back, and everything will make sense. There's no escaping what's meant to be. No matter how far you run, I'll always be there, pulling you back to where you belong. You can try to run from your feelings, but they are always with you. No matter how far you go, the place where you truly belong will always call you back. Running may give you temporary relief, but eventually your heart will lead you back to the place you're meant to be, the place where you belong. There's no place like home, and no matter how much you try to run, you'll always find your way back to where you belong. You might think you can hide, but the truth will find its way to you. And one day, you'll find yourself back where your heart always knew you belonged. Running away might seem like the answer, but all it does is bring you closer to what you've been avoiding, the place where you truly belong. The harder you run, the stronger the pull becomes. You'll eventually stop and realize that the place you belong is waiting for you to come home. You can flee from everything around you, but you can never flee from yourself. Deep down, you know where you belong, and one day you'll return. You can try to outrun me, but the bond between us is too strong. One day, you'll stop running and let your heart lead you back to where it belongs. Running doesn't solve anything. The truth has a way of finding its way back to you. And one day, you'll find yourself exactly where you belong. You can run, but your heart knows better. The place where you belong will always pull you back no matter how far you try to go. You might try to escape the inevitable, but the truth is that your heart will always guide you back to the place where you belong. Every time you run, the universe whispers to you that you're just one step away from returning to where your soul truly belongs. No matter how far you go, your heart will always guide you back to where you belong. The journey may take time, but you'll always find your way home. Running from your feelings might seem easier, but it only makes the pull stronger. One day, you'll stop and realize where you truly belong. You can try to outrun your destiny, but it's always one step ahead. No matter where you go, it will always bring you back to the place you're meant to be. You can keep running, but your heart knows where it belongs. And one day, when you least expect it, you'll return to the place where you've always been meant to be.